Hello YouTube, Cap90 back, and I'm gonna do something that's been kind of long overdue. Actually, it was supposed to be done in a different way. My original intention was to read the original source material and then see the 2017 version of the movie, because I kept hearing comments, or seeing comments rather, about people saying, oh, well, how do you know the newer movie's not going to be closer to the original book than the first one was, and blah, 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 blah. So, being the smartass I am, I decided, yeah, we'll see about that. So, I originally intended on buying the novel, reading it all the way through, and then going to see it when it finally came out last September. But that didn't happen, because I needed to have a novel of the original artwork, not this new, off-white, creepy clown smile balloons in the background type crap. But after a couple months late, but I finally have one. Yeah, less than $3 at Half Price Books. Of all places, a bookstore would be the store that had him. Okay, so instead of talking about the newest movie that just came out and how it differs and how it's similar to the novel, I'm instead going to be talking about the famous Georgie death scene and how it's different in terms of both movies, not just the 2017 one, but the 1990 one as well, and the similarities and differences between those two and the actual novel. Now, before I start, I want to state two things. Number one, this is in no way a diss video against Bill Skarsgård. I thought his performance of Pennywise was great. I thought it was sort of like a Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger thing. I prefer Tim Curry's Pennywise because he was the happier, funnier one. He was the actual persona of what a clown should be. Not to say there's anything wrong with Bill Skarsgård, who took it to the darker, more psychotic, monstrous level than Tim Curry did. Likewise, I like Jack Nicholson's Joker because he was the clown prince of crime. He was the mobster. He's the one that I fell in love with when I started reading Batman and watching the animated series, whereas Heath Ledger's Joker, not that there's anything wrong with him, but he focused more on the psychotic, darker side. I'll always prefer Jack Nicholson just because that's what I grew up with. Same with Pennywise. Okay, so let's start off with the similarities first. I'm going to go with Georgie first, and then I'll go with Pennywise. Gotta keep the people waiting on something. Okay, so Georgie in both movies is pretty much the same as he was in the novel. He was wearing a yellow raincoat. The only difference between the two films was in the 1990s version, Georgie was wearing a yellow hat as well that was a separate piece from the actual raincoat, whereas in the 2017 version, he was wearing a raincoat that had a hood. From what I can tell, the book doesn't actually specify whether or not the hat was a separate piece from the coat, but yeah, the yellow raincoat is the same. The only thing that's different between all three different materials is in the novel, Georgie was wearing red galoshes. In the 1990s version, as far as I can tell, he was wearing black galoshes, and the 2017 one, again, as far as I can tell, he was wearing green. So, three different colored galoshes, but red would be the most accurate one. And, okay, I know that this seems like I'm thinking way too much into these things, and I should probably just let certain things go, because the movie's never going to be as close to the book, but these things matter to me somehow. So, there you go. If you didn't want a long video, don't watch. Alright, now we get to the meat and potatoes of this video. Pennywise. In terms of which Pennywise is the most accurate, being the 1990s version over the 2017 version, the original Tim Curry one is definitely the most accurate of the two. For various reasons. The 2017 one does have one slight difference that was in the novel that wasn't in the 1990s film, but I'll get to that in a moment. In the novel, Pennywise had, if I remember correctly, Stephen King described it as bright orange hair on either side and big poofs, which is exactly what Tim Curry's had. Bill Skarsgård, while he did have the two on both sides, he also had that little tuft right in the back towards the middle. So, if you're going to nitpick like me, it's these little differences that don't add up in terms of what was in the novel. Pennywise in the novel was also wearing a silk suit with bright orange pom-pom buttons, which is exactly what Tim Curry wore in the 1990s version. Both of them had white painted faces. Both of them had the white cartoonish gloves. Bill Skarsgård's was more or less leaning towards like the old vintagey clown stuff. Like they had taken little pieces of clown outfits throughout the generations and just sort of pieced them together in a magnificent outfit, let's be honest. It was magnificent for multiple reasons. But nowhere in the novel does it mention that Pennywise had any sort of ruff under his arm, around his neck. So that's not accurate. The one thing that Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise had over Tim Curry's Pennywise is both Pennywise, as mentioned before, had white makeup. They both had blue eyes in the sewer, as far as I can tell. Again, the lighting's kind of weird, and I haven't... I've only seen it in theaters twice, and it hasn't come out on DVD yet, so I can't tell for sure. But yeah, both, as far as I know, had blue eyes in the sewer, as they did in the novel. Bill Skarsgård in the sewer, however, started off with yellow eyes, just like in the novel, and then as he got closer, his eyes turned blue. But before I get sidetracked again, the one thing Bill Skarsgård had over Tim Curry in terms of the Pennywise of the novel is, in the novel, Pennywise not only had white makeup, but he also had a red painted smile. And while it does sort of connect to his eyes and above his eyebrow to a certain extent, in some ways it is a painted red smile. And Tim Curry didn't have that. He just had little bitty red lines, but they weren't up-jogged, as far as I know. They were just straight lines. Like if he closed his mouth, it would just be one straight line. There's no smile-ish curve to it. Alright, so which one is more accurate? Well, if you're going off of the majority of the costumes, I would say Tim Curry's Pennywise would be the most accurate, and I guess Georgie from the 1990 movie, if you want to go as far as asking which Georgie was more correct. But okay, now let's go to the dialogue as well as what actually happened in both films. Alright, so first off, in the novel, Georgie loses his boat in the storm drain and runs over to come and grab it. And the first words out of Pennywise's mouth in the novel, which wasn't in either movie, Pennywise says, "Hi, George." Sorry, Georgie. I keep forgetting that. So yeah, in the novel he says, "Hi, Georgie." In the movies, both of them, he says, "Hiya, Georgie." Again, nitpicking, it's these little things. Who gives a shit? So both movies are wrong. Not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not as close to the novel as it actually could have been. I know, why do I care so much? I do, for some reason. In terms of dialogue, which one was closest? Dialogue, I would have to say, well, both of them drew a lot of the dialogue from the actual novel, which was nice. For example, in the 1990s movie, Pennywise is in the sewer and he has a balloon, and he also has Georgie's boat, which he does end up reaching for when Tim Curry's Pennywise, offers it over to him. Georgie responds with, "I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers. My dad says so." To which Pennywise replied, "Very wise of your dad, Georgie. Very wise indeed." Which is true to the actual novel. In the 2017 version, Georgie looks him after Pennywise having gone, "Do you want it back?" Not as dramatic, but that's what he says. He reaches his hand and then reluctantly pulls it back. "I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers." "Well, I'm Pennywise, the dancing clown." So that's one bit of dialogue that the 1990s version had over the 2017 version, is you just had that extra "very wise of your dad, Georgie" little bit. Both of them missed the introduction. In the novel, he introduces himself as Mr. Bob Gray. I don't know why they decided to drop that. Maybe there's got to be a reason for it. I just don't know and I don't care at the moment to try to figure it out. So, they both missed that. One thing the 2017 version had over the 1990s version had was, in the newer one, Georgie asked him either how he got down there or why he's down there. To which Bill Skarsgård replies with, "The storm blew me away, blew the whole circus away." Which was in the novel. In the 1990s version, too many dates. Georgie never asks him why he's down there or how he got down there. He just reaches for his boat and... Oh, about reaching for the boat in the introduction bit. They both had the same things, like, I'm Pennywise the dancing clown, you're Georgie. Not to a very accurate extent, that's essentially what happened. And then 1990s version had one other little bit of dialogue that I thought was really cool, was he had the whole correct part of it, which was in the novel, but in the 1990s movie, but it wasn't in the 2017 version. Bill Skarsgård simply replies with, "Georgie, meet Pennywise. Pennywise, meet Georgie. Now we're not strangers anymore, are we?" Not accurate, but again, performance was amazing, just not as accurate. And I've said this before, I just care for some reason. I don't know why. Don't judge me. Well, you're gonna judge me. It's the internet. What else? Bill Skarsgård had another little bit of dialogue that was in the novel that Tim Curry's did not have, and that was him asking if he could smell the circus down in the sewer, which he could, and you even had those neat little, the neat little circus sound effects in the background. And just going on the 2017 version, and I'll top it off with the 1990s version, after the whole little circus bit, Georgie says, "I gotta go." "Don't you want your boat?" "You remember what you said, Georgie. Bill's gonna kill you. Take it." Saving the death for later. In the 1990s version, let's see. Oh yeah, he's like, "So now we know each other. Correct? I guess so. I gotta go." "Go? Without this?" "Aw, you want it, don't you, Georgie?" Not in the whole book, just that little bit that's really nice. It's just something so inviting about Tim Curry, even though that child might have needed therapy after that whole scene. But anyway, Curry goes along with, "And there's cotton candy and rides and all sorts of surprises down here. And balloons, too, all colors. Do they float?" "Oh, yes. They float, Georgie. They float. And when you're down here with me, you'll float too." Which was actually in the novel. Just that little bit. Do they float? Yes, they float. And when you're down here with me, you'll float too. Now, for the death. The final bit of this whole video. Holy shit, we've made it, guys. In the novel, and this is where all three different sources differ. If you're going based on the novel, what happens is Pennywise grabs Georgie's arm and pulls him towards the sewer. Not in, just towards the sewer. There's a ripping noise, and a sheer of pain overcoming him, and a nearby neighbor runs off, tries to help him, flips him over, and finds that his left arm is missing. Just a mess of blood and a nub of bone where the arm used to be. And Georgie was already dead by the time the dude had gotten there. In the 2017 version, Bill Skarsgård does grab Georgie's arm, but he doesn't pull him towards the sewer. Instead, his eyes roll in the back of his head, you see the sharp, pointed teeth, and he bites Georgie's arm off. Georgie begins to crawl away, blood streaming down from his shoulder, and you see Pennywise's arm reaching out to grab him slowly, and he drags him back into the darkness. Which wasn't accurate. Again, if you're like me and you just want to go off the novel, that's not too accurate. In the 1990s Tim Curry version, He does grab Georgie's arm and drags him towards the sewer, and it just zooms in towards his mouth with all the pointed, sharp teeth. But then it pans out and you see a coffin being lowered into the ground in a cemetery, which didn't actually show everything that happened in the novel, but from that we can tell that no, he did not drag Georgie into the sewer. He must have, in fact, just bit his arm off and left him in the gutter to die. So at least they had something of Georgie's to bury. Unlike the 2017 version, we was dragged into the sewer, and that's why Bill and his buds decided to go down to the sewer to try to find him. Okay, so all that explanation is finally finished, 15 minutes in, almost 60. So, which of the two movies for the death scene is the most accurate? In terms of dialogue, both of them have their moments, but neither of them was exactly the way it was in the book. I know it should be expected by this point because no movie based on any book is going to be the same as the source material, down to a T. But again, I care about these little bits for some ungodly reason. But yeah, both movies have dialogue similar to the novel, each in their own unique way. But I want to say, if you want to go towards what is closer to the original source material, I would have to say the 1990s version is a lot closer to the original novel than the 2017 version. Again, not that there's anything wrong with Bill Skarsgård's performance. He was fantastic, he was scary, but it's nowhere close to the novel that Tim Curry's version was. Plus, when you think about it, it kind of had this little bit, because it was a miniseries before it became a movie in the 90s, whereas in the 2017 version, they got the director of Mama and the scriptwriter for Swamp Devil and I think Annabelle, that dude also did. I don't remember that guy's name, but who cares. So yeah, there it is. If you care to know, the 1990s movie was closer in terms of the novel, its original material, than the 2017 version. Thank you for sitting through my rant. I hope it was at least somewhat entertaining for you, and hopefully I can edit this to get all the boring parts out so you don't have to sit through almost 20 minutes of this crap.